Finally, it's our Juneteenth special.
When we recorded it, not when we published it.
Um, Tonight we're going to talk about something that I don't think we've really touched on a lot on this channel, and that, of course, is Alice Cooper. The Alice Cooper group, as you guys know, at I think it's fair to say at our behest, have reconvened for a full album of the original group, the surviving members of the original group. We already had the first taste off of that in the form of Black Mamba. Now we have Wild Ones, which is also the second song on the album, I believe, in the order of the track list. So I wonder if we're going to be getting, just like half of the album songs in order, then the rest of it dropping all at once. Um, I I'm curious to hear Kelly's feedback on this. My top line reaction to it, though, obviously I like the song, but this is kind of what I expected more in a first single.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. Um, while when we talked about Black Mamba, we said you this feels and sounds like original Alice Cooper group. Obviously, Alice has a very distinctive voice, and so that would be a tip. Oh, this is in the Alice Cooper canon, but original Alice Cooper group versus Alice as a solo artist. Still can't put my finger on exactly what all the sound differences are, but this sounds like the kind of music those being Black Mamba sounded like it. There were some interesting moments in Black Mamba. We both liked the song, but we also were pointing out a few of the things that are were just just didn't click quite as much. I didn't run no really kind of like no notes for me on this song. I do agree that of the two so far, I prefer this one over Black Mamba, and for a couple of reasons. So I'm kind of with you on that. It's great to hear. It's interesting to see how much of this we're going to get before it's actually released, and if they'll just kind of keep going in album order from there. The other thing that I really liked was where Black Mamba was a kind of visualizer type of video. This was much closer to still not high production, but it was the group in the studio performing, kind of a la the "Who Are You" video type thing, where they keep kind of cutting to different characters, all done in black and white. And I liked it. I liked the video, and I liked the song.
Yeah, I thought the video was like you said, the Black Mamba video, it's fine, but it's more of a visualizer. This feels closer to a music video. Like Kelly said, you get some performance footage of the band in the studio. So here's the thing, I'm just gonna say up front, because it'll probably come up with future videos if they release multiple singles. I don't like band performance videos, just in general, not a fan. Older bands, though, I think it's fine when they do it, not because they're old, but they come from a different era, if that makes sense. Just like, if you were to listen to an earlier kind of proto metal band, for example, you wouldn't expect it to sound like a current metal band. Like it's just a different thing, it's just a different approach. So I think they came from a time when music videos were still kind of in their infancy, and the novelty was seeing the band playing on your TV. Like that's what a music video was at the time. Nowadays, because we have access to it on our phones, thanks to YouTube and everything else, and music videos even count towards streaming, depending on the platform they're on, your streaming numbers, which can count towards your overall sales and chart position on things. So there's a lot, it's a lot of a different approach. It's a much more I don't know if theatrical approach, I guess, would be the way to word it, where they've moved away from performance to more of a narrative structure with videos. And I think that would suit Alice Cooper great as well. But when it's an older band like this is what I expect as a performance video. So it's kind of the opposite of what I want normally in music, if that makes sense. Like I'm going in expecting and wanting to see something like this and not what I expect from a more like modern band approach to stuff. So I guess what I'm saying is any younger bands watching this video is great. Don't do this though. Don't make a performance video. It sucks when you do it. it's cool when Alice Cooper does it. That's that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and I mean, I mean, we shouldn't really be surprised. It's been 50 years since they've done something together. I think you're able to identify from any early Alice Cooper group um, videos to this video, time has passed. You know, these are slightly older gentlemen, which is, but it's still, it's good. And then they kind of just seem to be perform. I mean, you know, and how much of this is staged or not, hard to tell. But at least from the articles they've talked about with them getting together and stuff, there's a lot of good banter and interplay, and you know they get along well. That reads that way super strong in the video. I'm sure it could be put on, but I'm pretty confident it yeah, accurately captured them in the studio and the fact that they're enjoying their time together and making music. So I think that that's good. And I think that kind of performance video where they're not, you know, trying to be a younger band on stage is probably a good idea too, because had a great opportunity to see Graham Parker and the Rumor a few years back, and it was a lot of the original members of the Rumor who have gone through a comparable aging process as the Alice Cooper group. And one of their guitarists, it wasn't Brinsley Schwartz, but one of their guitarists was rocking out to, he was really enjoying kind of hitting those licks and playing the guitar. And it kind of looked like your grandpa playing guitar. It's like, Grandpa, don't, don't be shimmying. Don't do that. It's not good. And the joints didn't work quite as well. So it's like when there is a desire to kind of zigzag, it was a little less fluid than the younger folk. So I will agree with Mike's advice. Younger bands don't do it. Older bands that do it in the studio. Just I think that's going to be a
Do it the way they did it in this video. If you're an
yeah.
older band,
Most
this
people
is right.
seated. I
Yeah.
think it's a good.
And like Kelly's point, I think it's important that it comes across. So this is obviously not them recording the actual song. This is them just playing it for the video or whatever. And the reason I say that is they would record the instruments separately, obviously. You'd have a lot of like bleed and stuff like that in the mix, which you don't. When you listen to those earlier Alice Cooper albums, when things were recorded more live in the studio, you can hear the sound difference. There's not as much separation in the tracks and things like that because of that. So this isn't how they recorded it, but you can see that there's a genuine camaraderie between them and they're having fun. This is what I want to see. I don't want to see younger bands do this. I want to see them trying to entertain me. And if you're an older band, like Kelly said, sit down, have fun. Let us see you having fun and making cool music that we want to hear. We don't necessarily need to see you dance and things like that.
Nope.
That's fine.
Yep. Just our opinion, but we are the podcast that enabled Atari to over double their revenue in a year. So
And we made this happen. We made this
and
Alice Cooper
we
group
made the group
album
get back together. So
happen.
maybe you should listen to us, I guess
Yeah,
is
you
what we're
should
saying.
probably listen to us.
I'd
Also,
listen to.
I do think we should throw out so you get some Dennis Dunaway vocals on this song too. And that I think is worth mentioning. I like that. I was excited to hear that. What was your thoughts on that when he kicked in there?
Super glad. I think of kind of everything that just has kind of happened with the group over time and all that, and what Dennis Dunaway has done. I don't think the guy's gotten the props that he deserves or some of the opportunities he probably should have deserved. I think he's an excellent musician. I think he writes good songs. And in the early days of Alice Cooper, as these ideas were coming up, these weren't all coming from Alice. Dennis was an art student, and he and Alice really formulated a lot of what became the Alice Cooper vibe. And then as things kind of split off, he did some other things, but none of them got the traction. A lot of partnership with some Blue Oyster Cult members, which is pretty cool stuff. And then we did a video on Cold Cold Coffin a little while back, which is a good song, really good song. So it was nice to see him. And based on there's a really nice, fairly lengthy interview with him where we'll have to see when the list comes out on which songs are on there. but he had a number of songs that are on here that were kind of his primarily, and then as a group, you know, they make some adjustments to it and all that. So I was really glad to see him kind of heavily, yeah, slightly heavily featured, you know. So
And I think this gets to what Kelly was saying. If I correct me if I'm wrong and not and misunderstanding in some way, but to what you were saying in the beginning, like there is a difference in the sound between Alice Cooper solo records and the Alice Cooper group. And what I think that is the idea that sure, Alice is the lead singer and he's the guy up front, but there's a more organic playing off of each other feel to it. Whereas, and this isn't disparaging of any of Alice's solo bands, but it's all about him on the solo record. So it's him up top over the music. More like a pop album would be mixed, where it's the focus is just his voice. Whereas, like you see with Dennis Dunaway singing on this song and things like that, like other people are also, while he's still up front, clearly, other people get their spotlights in the songs too. Whereas on the Alice solo records, and again, that's not a bad thing. It's a solo record. That's how it's supposed to be. The focus is just him.
yeah, I mean differences between a tremendous backing band
Yeah, an excellent
and a
backing band.
group and a group,
Yeah.
you know, it's just and the shortest of all, there's a little, I don't know if you can even call it a bass solo, but there is a bass feature in this song, which is pretty cool. So excellent. So early on, so I know we're two songs into, I forget, like 13 tracks. I mean, it's a pretty beefy
Something like
album.
that. Yeah.
Um, two tracks in, do you have a sense on the trajectory of this in terms of where it's going to go in your list? Is this top five, upper half, bottom half?
Well,
Um,
I definitely need to hear one more song. At least I'm hoping there's at least one more single before the album because I think we've gotten two sides of the spectrum here. And this could be the anomaly, and much of the album could be slower material, like Black Mamba, but we won't know until we get a third track, is the way that I'm looking at it. I think the Black Mamba is going to be one of a few slower songs that kind of breaks things up because, like we were saying, it sounded to me like a back half of an album song, not an opening track. Although, again, it's one of those things I need to hear it in the context to see. Maybe it'll make more sense if it's a build up to things. But I'm hoping there's more songs like this now that I dislike Black Mamba. But I'm hoping we get a fair amount of more upbeat songs.
yeah, but I'm with you 100%. It kind of, for me right now, it feels upper half. But I don't think it's threatening like the absolute top. But it's very early, and that's just the sense
Yeah.
I have, and we gotta kind of hear the rest of it. The one um, where I'm a little torn, a little. I mean, so I'm glad it's happening, and it's all original stuff, and that's all new stuff, and that's going to be great. I had always kind of hoped after we reviewed Battle Axe by Billion Dollar Babies, which was when Alice left the group. They remained a band as Billion Dollar Babies, and they did an album called Battle Axe. We did a track by track review of it. Michael Bruce handled the lead singing duties on it, and he's not a bad singer. He's not Alice Cooper, but he's not a bad singer. But I do wonder what that album would have felt like and been like if it had been the original group together. Maybe with a song or two swapped out for like a Black Mamba or a Wild Ones or something. But I do think that whole album could have been elevated. There were plans that Battle Axe was one of the possibilities that they were going to do for the last album they did together, and Muscle of Love won out. And I don't know if the partnership had kind of continued at that point. It might be interesting to see how Battle Axe sounded.
Yeah, and as much, and I think we both kind of said similar things when we did the review. As much as I do like that album, you can't help but think when you're listening to it what it might sound like with Alice singing.
Yeah.
And I that's not fair to the band, of course, but it is what you think listening to it. And I do think it would have elevated the songs a little bit. And that's something we've even talked about with Alice solo stuff, where sometimes the live versions elevate the songs a little bit over the studio mixes. So
Yep.
I think with the battle axe thing, it was more like, could Alice's voice have elevated this? And usually, yes, in my opinion, that would have done that.
Yep. Yeah. So we'd be
And also
interested in,
too,
oh, go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. So also too, you brought up a really good point that you're glad it's all new material. So one thing I was worried about, for a few years there was a trend of bands from this era putting out new material that included a lot of recycled elements of old songs. The worst version of this, in my opinion, and they're one of my favorite bands, so it pains me to say, is Black Sabbath. Made an album called 13 that recycled a bunch of riffs from early albums of theirs. It was meant to, like, it was an intentional thing where it was meant, like, the songs were meant to be like, I don't know, sequels or callbacks to old songs and things, but I hated it. And I think once the initial excitement of a lot of people wore off from that album, because it was their first album with Ozzy as a vocalist in quite a long time at that point. I think once that excitement wore off, people were like, "Oh, this album kind of sucks," and that was a big part of it. But it wasn't just them. Around that same time, Van Halen, Aerosmith, and a bunch of other bands of the era were all putting out albums that had recycled riffs or reworked old songs or more obscure songs that they re-recorded. So it is nice to see that this seems like it's new material when a lot of their peers didn't do that.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not as if Alice Cooper is a stranger to self-referential work because there's a lot of that. I'm 18 or not. I'm 18, but elected calls back to I'm 18 and school's out, and there's connections there. Guilty has made guest appearances in a number of songs in different ways. Maybe sometimes a little bit of a riff. For Britain only, you do get him going, I'm guilty, and you do get a little bit of that I'm guilty guitar riff in there, but nowhere near what you're talking about, what some of the other folks did, where they was just kind of, let's just bring a lot of stuff back. But yeah, I agree entirely that it is good that this is just, everybody kind of brought in songs and they came up with something there. So excited to see. We'd like to hear what your thoughts are. If you're a big Alice Cooper fan, where are you at after hearing two songs on that? Let us know in the comments. No need to thank us for getting the group back together. We're too modest to bring that up. That's
Humility
clearly
is
what
our
happened.
best quality.
Yep. Which is why we've insisted in any reviews or interviews that they've done, they don't mention the undue influence we had on the referendum. They've held to that. We appreciate that. So I think that will continue. I think we can be highly confident that'll continue. That there will not be a lot of bog panda mentions anytime soon. But we know that's what matters. So
Bog Panda.